experiencing snow, as the cold snap continues to move south a little bit, and Florida even, the northern parts of Florida. And, of course, you started hearing about, all these people that were stranded and the kind of situations that they were faced with, because we're just, let's face it, this urbanized culture in which we live in, we're just not used to dealing with these kind of surprises. And this is why we're thankful for guys like Frank Walter. Frank is a kind of guy who's out there. He's in the wilderness. I mean, if you saw this guy, you think, oh, my goodness, this is like the wilderness survivalist kind of guy. But fortunately, he comes out, from it all, and he's got some ideas in helping us survive these situations that we may find ourselves in suddenly and surprisingly. Frank Walter, welcome to the show. How you doing, sir?
It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak with you, Bill, and your listeners. As we speak, I'm living in my little 16-by-16 cabin with my wife on the banks of the Kantishna River, 115 river miles off the Parks Highway.
Wow.
Which is a little different.
More than different. I mean, you talk about lifestyle and everything, and you're the kind of guy that lives off the land and enjoys all the natural resources. So there's probably just so much that we can be jealous about.
Well, it depends on your point of view. I was drawn all my life to the woods to be a wilderness trapper in Alaska, which I've accomplished. I'm 72 now. I've been doing this since 1965. I'm a registered guide and prospector, too. And it's up here, by the way, it's 2 above right now, and which is good. I wish it was colder. My ideal would be 10 above to 20 below. 20 below at night, 10 above during the day. That's about perfect. People think that's nuts. It's different up here. Go ahead.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. Well, break it down for us. I mean, you're able to make this adjustment. Now, you say this was something that was this kind of a lifelong ambition for you to realize this kind of lifestyle, or how did this come about?
Well, I was born in Hackensack, New Jersey, of all places. Then we moved to a farm, and I started trapping when I was 12, and hunter, and 14, and it just went from there. And I was just drawn to this, and I realized most people aren't. And our over-urbanized culture has lost touch with the natural elements of life. We used to go out to our Uncle Louie had a farm out wherever, but no more. Mm-hmm. We've forgotten these things, and I could smugly sit back. We have a couple of years' supply of food. I have a little bit of money in the bank, not much, but I could make do with my wife and I for $5,000 a year with the way we live.
Wow.
And that sounds impossible to even think of, but we can. But because we're on a different wavelength. Go ahead.
Right.
I'm talking on two-way radio.
No, that's okay. But I'm seeing this as in terms of a lifestyle and a sense of what this does to you psychologically in terms of slowing it down. I mean, here we are in this urbanized culture. We're running from pillar to post, and there's cell phones and all kinds of social media technology and tweeting and all this stuff. And you and your wife are there kicking back, enjoying the elements and enjoying life, living on $5,000 a year. And the idea that most in this urbanized culture, they would say, oh my goodness, you're in poverty, but you're probably wealthier than most people.
Absolutely. I know that. I could live for years on $0 a year. Mm-hmm. Indefinitely. I'm 72 years old now. I've been doing this stuff since 65. It's my life, and I realize most people aren't drawn this way. But let's put it this way: I'm not a survivalist. I want to go hide under a rock in camouflage. I have a greater appreciation for the unimproved works of God over the works of man. So it's no sacrifice for me. But I feel, and I see our people living the way they live, if and when, and I believe it will happen, like Pearl Harbor, like 9/11. And they're going to be in a lot of hurt. Right. And I wrote this book, Survival After the Next Shoe Falls, trying to awaken them. It's no warm fuzzies. Right. It's to knock them out of their comfort zone. And I systematically go over what I would do in that situation, utilizing my near half century of experience. And I hope I can awaken other people. That's the purpose of writing. I could sit back here. I don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I want to do because I believe there's a purpose for accomplishing I've set a goal. This is a novel experience, and people should check out this book, check out our Facebook. I couldn't do it. Our agent's doing it. I'm computer illiterate. I really can't.
Yeah, you don't need to be dealing with computers where you're at. And I guess that's the question. You know, the whole purpose of this, that you're sharing your experience. I mean, because I can tell you, and you may not be aware, but because of this unusual storm that's been going, through the east and impacting about 40% of the country, it went a little bit further south, and we got people stranded, in Atlanta. We got children on buses staying overnight. Long commutes, red lights all over the place, and people just, the stranding part is probably stuff that, gets your attention, because then you wonder, as I do, what would happen? How would they survive? And fortunately, they did have some, in many cases, I mean, there was, churches, there were people in the community that were reaching out and helping people out. I mean, there was even a birth yesterday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the midst of the snowstorm and everything that happened. So I understand mother and child are doing well, and they were able to get to the hospital in time and and get the services. But yet, there could be situations that come about, Frank, and I know that's what you're anticipating, is that what would happen if this country had to move in a full-blown survival mode?
Well, the thrust of this book is that we will have a terrorist attack or a financial disruption on the long haul, and most people would have difficulty getting by for a week, certainly 2 weeks, and the shelves will be stripped bare in 3 or 4 days, and that includes going down just to get gas. And everything works as long as everything works. We built this beast system that's in control, not us, not the politicians. It has to keep working. If anybody throws that monkey wrench in the gears, the whole thing shuts down. And when it does, I think about the hardship that people are going to have to experience. And I say, number one, if people, tips, get in shape. If you're 25, 50 pounds overweight, get rid of it, because let's face it, you got to be in shape to deal with this stuff. You don't have to be in shape by running a triathlon, but be in pretty good condition and get the basic elements of food, water, medical supplies if you have people that require it, and extra gasoline so you can't even get out of town. The problem is everybody's going to be trying to do the same thing. So if you believe this could happen, it's voting 70% of the people believe we will have a disaster like this, I would try to systematically leave the big city. You're living in one of the biggest. I've been in L.A. a long, long time ago for about a week.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is a long time, over 40 years ago I was there for a week. So I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. And I was, a pastor through just visiting some people.
It's massive. There's no doubt about it. I can tell you, Frank, even our in our family, we have a meeting place that where we will get together and meet on, and so that and it's outside of the city, obviously, and so there are things that you can do. And as you say, the number one thing is to get in shape. Let's give them about 4 or 5 other next things that they need to be aware of.
Well, as I said, basic food and water supplies, gasoline for your vehicle, because you may have problems getting that, and everybody's been going to those gas stations at the same time. And a lot of times, they don't have a big supply of fuel. It's just like the food in the grocery stores. It's coming in constantly. And if and when something happens, like I say, a terrorist, which I believe this will happen, we've been lulled to sleep since 9/11, and when it happens, it'll be like 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, and disrupt us, and over 70% of the people believe someday we'll have a nuclear impact in some form or other. And I don't want to drag that out, and that's so horrible, it's not very nice talking or thinking about, but we should, as a possibility. You don't run and hide like an ostrich. You live with the realities that are around us, and there's a lot of people on the face of this planet that hate us.
Right, no doubt about it. Well, Frank, we saw what happened with Hurricane Katrina there in New Orleans. It did not take long for those people to be in dire straits, and they were counting on the government to help them out. I mean, this became a situation where it was very dire, and it took days to get water there even.
Oh, and you in California are short of water right now. If this drought continues that I've heard on the radio, it's not going to be fun down there.
Well, your book, Survival After the Next Shoe Falls, available at Amazon and all the usual places, right?
Oh, yes, you could order it. They probably won't have it on the shelves. Let's face it, this is I'm just a little guy who lives in the woods. And this is something I'm pushing because I believe it's important.
Well, Frank, I got to come out. I got to come out and see you. I'd love to come out and meet you directly and experience some of the lifestyle you have there. I'm a bit envious to hear you talk about it. I can only imagine what it must be like for you. Well, Frank Walter has been our guest. This is Bill Martinez, 2 minutes before the top of the hour.